All right, guys, today should be a pretty fun day. What we've got is a 1949 Chevy 4400 series truck, and we get to see if it will start, run, and maybe even drive. Now, unlike most 76-year-old pickup trucks, this one has a very known history. In 1949, it was purchased brand new in Denver, Colorado, and it originally came with a 216 inline six, which was not a very good motor because it did not have a pressurized oiling system. It has what's often called a dipper motor or a splash oiler, where your crankshaft spins, splashes oil up, hopefully around all of your bearings, and keeps that motor going. It did not work out very well. So sometime around 1952, 1953, that motor gave way and this truck was dead on the side of the road. That's when my family jumped in and purchased it. So they replaced that blown 216 with what I'm told is a 235. Again, it's an inline six, but a much better motor with a pressurized oiling system. And that motor has been in this truck running from about 1952, 53 up until the mid 90s, where it was finally parked at my great uncle's farm. So let's pop this hood and take a look at what we're working with. So the first thing I'm looking at here is to see what, if anything, we're missing. And the good news is, it's in pretty good shape, at least as far as having all of its components. The only thing that's obvious that we're missing is our oil filler cap, which seems to be missing on just about every old vehicle. At least this one still has an air filter. The next thing I'm looking at is trying to determine if this is a 6 or a 12 volt system. These came as 6 volts, but most of the time they've been swapped over. This does still look to me like that old 6 volt generator. And then we have a Pull-O-Matic here, which is a 6 volt. So we're probably still running the 6 volt system on this. I can probably get it running on a 12 volt. I don't have any 6 volt batteries lying around, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. We've got a little ways to go before we can crank this thing over. First things first, let's see if I can convince my wife to steer this, and I'll get the tractor fired up so we can pull this thing closer to the shop. On second thought, maybe she's not going to want to drive this thing. Woof. Maybe she will. She's a tough gal. All right, so what do you need to be able to hop in there and steer this thing for me?
This is jinkity jankity. Oh my gosh. Maybe like a cushion and a towel.
I was thinking a towel would be good to go.
I don't know if I really want to sit on springs, just a towel. I think I need a little cushion.
And that wasp's nest, that was there when I got it. I don't think there's anything living in there.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll get a towel and maybe a little pad. But you can drive this, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
How's it going?
Pretty good. I got some cardboard and then a towel. I'm all cozy.
Good. Have you found any of the spiders?
No.
Okay.
He's smiling at me. What's wrong?
You're in gear.
Oh.
Oh man, as soon as you pop out of gear, it minds.
Roll?
All right.
Okay, so when you start backing up, you want me to push this into neutral?
I'm going to go forward to take the resistance off of here, and then I want you to pop that into neutral.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm doing a little bit more than I thought. Sorry, Austin. Now we're cruising. No? Oh, that should be it. Yeah. Sorry, I went into second or something. I got a thumbs up. This is where you want it?
Yeah, no spider bites?
No, we look good?
Yeah, we look good.
All right. Bye-bye, junk car. Beautiful truck.
All right, so starting off with our fluids, we've got our dipstick here for our oil. The quantity looks great. It does smell a little bit like fuel, but that is to be expected with a carbureted engine. As far as our radiator goes, this thing is absolutely bone dry. We've even got ourselves a nice little spider web there. Take a look inside there. In fact, let me go get my inspection camera so that we can see inside this valve cover, because it looks like a rat decided to make a nest in there at some point, or something like that. All right, guys, so here's our inspection camera. I want you guys to take a look at what we see inside. Oh my gosh, look at that. Oh my gosh. Is this like a full-blown nest? Let's see how far back it goes. Oh yeah. Oh no. All right, so let's go ahead and get these valve covers off. I still think it'll run though. Whoa, flathead. Not expecting that. Moment of truth here. Let's see what we got. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, this is why you just leave your oil cap on. Oh my God. Oh, I'm starting to think maybe this thing won't run. Well, let's vacuum it out and see how it looks. All right, guys, check this out. Take a look at our crank down there. I'm able to get a little bit of movement. And then look at this. At least these front valves are moving. So it's going to take an awful lot of work to see if I can free this stuff up. I think what I'm going to do is just get as much penetrating oil on it as possible. And then, man, if I can, I'd like to pull those spark plugs out and then see if I can just slowly start working this motor. There's a mixture that a lot of old timers have told me about, which is 50% automatic transmission fluid, 50% acetone. I sure would like to try that. Maybe I can goop the whole top with that and then send some down into the cylinders. I still have hope that this thing might run. I did test these spark plugs after I removed them, and more or less they all tested good. All right, let's see what we've got. Actually doesn't look that bad. Let's take a look and see. Let's see if we can move that piston a little bit. Oh, yeah, look at that. All right. Cylinder number 2. Oh yeah, let's see if we can move it from right there. Oh, that's not bad. We are breaking free here. Ooh! Oh no. Oh no. Oh yeah. That is an unhappy cylinder. Golly. Oh no. Okay, well, number 3 looks terrible. Number 4, also terrible. Okay. Number 5. Ugh. Looks so good. Number 6. How the hell did spiders get in there? This is crazy. Oh my goodness, look at that. Let's see. That is wild. Okay. Look at that, there it is, a little spider. That's crazy. That is crazy. Okay, well, let's see if we can vacuum out what cylinders 3, 4, and 6. And then we'll go ahead and get some fluid in there. So the crank is spinning pretty good on its own, but as I spin it, I've only got one rocker arm that's even willing to move. So I'm going to go ahead and pull off the rocker assembly and see if I can break those rockers free individually. And then that way, hopefully those valves will close. It'll make it a little bit easier to spin the motor because of course we've got no spark plugs in it now. We'll try and get that thing spun a few times, get all of that crud that's built up on the cylinder walls out. We might need to blow out the cylinders a couple of times, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. First things first, let's get the rocker assembly off. So I was trying to think of something to soak these rockers in, and I've got 5 gallons of used trans hydraulic fluid from working on my tractor. So let's go ahead and give these things a little bath and leave them in there overnight, and we'll see how it does. All right, we'll let that little mixture do its job, and then I'll touch base back in the morning. So now would be a good time to ask, what exactly is our goal here? Because the best case scenario with this motor is that it will need a complete and total rebuild before it can ever power this truck down the road. The worst case scenario, this motor is unfortunately scrapped and unsalvageable. So what are we doing here trying to get this old thing to run for just a few Ugga Chuggas? Well, the answer to that is simple. My grandfather, who is now 100 years old, watches all of my YouTube videos. And he is the one who has owned this truck for the last 50 of the 74 years or so that it has been in my family. He used to have a water tank on the back, and he would drive it around his property in Araba, Colorado, watering all of the trees that he planted. And I know that he would absolutely love to hear this motor run, even if it's just for a short time. And you know who else would like to see this run? My uncle, who painted this on the door when he was 15 years old working on the farm. It says D. Saffer & Sons, Araba, Colorado. Now Dale, that's my great uncle. That's who ended up selling this to my grandfather. And that is the reason that I'm spending all this time just trying to get this thing running. Now, what exactly does running mean? For me, this motor just has to spin on its own power. All I need is 3 Ugga Chuggas out of this and I will be happy. So if we can get this motor to spin crank, 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 and then have it go Ugga Chugga, Ugga Chugga, Ugga Chugga, that's good enough for me. After that, I'll have a smile on my face. I know that my grandfather and my uncle will have a smile on their face. Hopefully you'll have a smile too, and then we can go ahead and get this motor pulled out and start the restoration process on this truck. So where did we leave off last night? We've got our Pepto-Bismol magic working its way through our cylinders, and I was able to spin the crank using our front fan, which is attached to a belt to the crank pulley, and that is because the crank pulley on the 235 does not have a nut, so there was no way for me to get a ratchet onto that in order to spin it directly. Unfortunately, that belt is starting to slip, but I did come up with a solution. What I'm going to do is disconnect our rear drive shaft here, and then I will put the transmission into 4th gear, which should be a 1-to-1 ratio, and then I'll spin it on this yoke right here. That should allow me to spin the motor a little bit more freely. I do think that our valves in the back are totally stuck open, but I don't think that this is an interference engine. So I still should be able to spin that motor. Once we get this thing spinning pretty freely, then I can work on breaking free any of those valves that may be stuck solid. And then we'll go into the shop and see if I can break free our rocker arms off of that front assembly. Once everything is wiggling and moving on its own, we'll put the rocker assembly back on here, and then we'll start the process of trying to get that starter working. So let's get to it. Actually, before I jump into that, there is one thing I want to show you in the shop here. I just so happen to have another 235 sitting here. Now, I ended up getting this 235 along with, I don't even remember what this is. This might be a 216. It's another inline six GM. Both of these I got in exchange for transporting a transmission that I sold. Actually, it was a transaxle from a Massey Ferguson MF50. It was a great transaxle, but the guy didn't have any way to ship it, and he offered me both of these motors just to transport that. Now, this is a 12 volt 235. You see we have a different starter, and then we've got a different generator right here. So I was thinking about pulling this starter off to make it a little bit easier. Unfortunately, our solenoid is damaged, so it might end up making more sense to run our 6 volt starter off of 12 volts, but at least we've got a 12 volt ignition coil here, and then if there's any parts that we need, we might be able to scavenge them off this. So let's get back outside and get to work. Before we get this rear drive shaft unbolted, I wanted to show you this weld repair to the front drive shaft. Now, I can't really make fun of this too much because it was almost certainly done by one of my relatives. So what I will say is, whatever farmer did this is a lot better welder than I am farmer. I just thought that was kind of interesting. I'm sure this thing is perfectly balanced. So here I'm using my impact hammer to see if I can wiggle these valves loose. You can see a few of them will go down and then pop back up, so we know that the springs are working, but a couple of them on the back, mainly cylinders 4, 5, and 6, they seem to be pretty frozen solid. I do manage to break the very last valve. It breaks cleanly off, and then the valve itself tries to fall into the cylinder. So I use a screwdriver to hold that valve back up so that I can then use a mini vice grip and clamp it down. That effectively kills off that 6th cylinder, but that's the least of our problems right now. And then back in the shop, I'm working on the rocker assembly, and I'm using that same impact hammer to see if I can wiggle those loose. All right, I'm gonna keep this rocker assembly soaking in this oil while I work on a few other things on this truck. Mainly, I have to figure out if this starter works at all. You can see there's a little bit of a janky repair that was done on the linkage on the top there. So I will pull that apart, see if I can get that linkage to work, and then we'll hook this thing up to a 12 volt, and then we'll see if we can get any power through it. All right, we've got the starter hooked up to the battery down there, and then I've got this little bar hooked up to that lever. So let's see if we can get any juice. Oh yeah! All right, that is awesome. Let's go ahead and get that rocker assembly installed. All right, let's see if it spins. All right, well, there's a chance that maybe 3 cylinders will fire. All right, we've got our 12 volt ignition coil from the other 235 all hooked up. We are ready to test this thing out. I have the spark plug wires all hooked up. As far as I know, the firing order on all inline sixes is the same, 15, 36, 24. Don't ask me the inappropriate way that I remember that. I do have this tester hooked up right here so that I can see if we are going to be getting any spark on that number 1 cylinder. So we'll go ahead and crank that. We'll see if we're getting spark. If we are getting spark, I will disconnect this, hook this back up, and then I'll get my Go Fast juice, aka starting fluid, and we'll squirt that in there and see if we can get this thing running. Dang, no spark. Man, we cannot catch a break on this motor. All right, guys, well, it's the morning of day 3 on what should have been a 4-hour project. This thing is just fighting me every step of the way. What I did was hook up this ground wire, and then my forklift spark plug wire that I had lying around, it was in good shape, along with my little tester here. And then I'll go ahead and touch this to the ignition coil. What that does, you see a little spark there? All right, let me see if I can get a little better light here. That essentially bypasses our distributor, the condensers, the points, everything inside there, even the spark plug wires. So we know we're getting a good spark. We know our ignition coil is good. The problem is somewhere inside this distributor. I don't think it's the condenser. I know you're not supposed to use the same one on a 6 volt and a 12 volt, but I've never had any issues with that. More than likely, I think our issue is going to be in these horrible spark plug wires. But luckily, if you remember, I've got that 216 inline 6 inside, and that had some good wires on it. So let's go ahead and pull all the wires off. We'll put the ones from the 216 on there, and then we'll just crank it over and see what it does. All right, so I'm making a little headway. Turns out the points were super corroded on this. I used some sandpaper here to just kind of file it down. Let me show you how I'm testing the points. Basically, I've got my multimeter set up right there. It is set up to make a little beep as soon as there's some connectivity between these two lines. I've got my alligator clips on the negative side of my ignition coil, and then I have my other lead right here on the block. I'm going to spin the motor from the back, and then you'll hear a beep as soon as the points are closed. So let me get this camera set up. All right, so the next step is putting everything back together, and we'll see if we're getting any spark on our ignition system. All right, let's see if this thing lights up. We got spark. Oh, we got spark. Oh, let's do it. All right, let's get some Go Fast juice. Oh, I'm so freaking excited. All right, check this out. Ah, God. Oh, that shocked the shit out of me. Oh. Oh, man, through my glove. Woo-wee. Oh, I haven't been shocked like that on one of these in a while. Golly. All right. All right, let's get that Go Fast juice. Oh, she's going to run, baby. I can feel it. All right. So I don't have 3 hands. So I'll go ahead and wire up the throttle there for full send. That way that's a wide open, chokes open, starter's ready. Transmission is not in gear. So we should be good to go. Let's see what it does. Oh, no. Nice. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, that smells horrible. All right. Let's see what we can get out of this thing. Whoa! Some of them are going there. Ooh, some of those valves are starting to work now. All right, well, cylinders 4, 5, and 6. Those things aren't going. Maybe we can get this thing to run a little better on 3 cylinders. We got some Ogachugas. I think that counts. I'm going to say that counts. But we'll see if we can get it to run just a little bit better. So we got the intake valve broken on number 6. Exhaust is frozen on 6. Intake and exhaust are both frozen on 5. And the Oh man, intake and exhaust are both frozen at 4. Let's pull those spark plugs out so that we've got no compression on numbers 4, 5, and 6, so that they're just spinning free. And then we'll see if we can get it running on 3 cylinders. Sounds like a plan. As good a plan as any. You know, we could pull the whole rocker assembly off the back, and then that way we could pull out the push rods as well, so there'd be no stress on your camshaft. I mean, it would just be a 3-cylinder carrying along a little bit of extra weight. We'll call it a naturally balanced 3-cylinder. That's what we'll call it. Let's try that. All right, let's see if that's any easier to spin. Oh yeah, she's very happy. Oh man. All right. She might even run on gasoline. We're getting some good chuggas. That is a very unhappy clicking noise. Tappity tap. Man, I was hoping it would run on gas, but well, I said I wanted 3 Ugga chuggas. I feel like I got that. Should we keep going? Yeah, let's keep going. Oh yeah. Oh, she wants to. She wants to run so bad. Maybe a little gasoline, just a little gasoline. That'll make it happy, right? Oh man, we're so close. If this thing could run without, if I could get my hand off the starter and keep it running just for a second, that would be, oh, that'd be mint. She did it! She did it! She spun on her own. Oh my God. This smells terrible. Dang. All right, well, that's it. Thanks for watching. I hope you like this, Pops. Don't worry. I'll take good care of this. It'll get a full restoration. Stay tuned. All right, hold up. Don't click away yet. I do need your help with something. I want to do more of these first start videos, but I don't know which engine to start with next. Let me show you what our choices are. We've got that other 235 and then the 216 that I showed you earlier. We've got a 1958 Ford 292 Y block. We have a mid-40s International inline 6, and then one more. Let me show you. We have a Ford 300 HD from a Grumman Olson van. So which one of those should we try to get running next?
Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye-bye.